Good morning, Warzone kids. Beautiful day on the trail. It is like a spring day in Vermont. It is 32 degrees. Don't be fooled. Enjoy it, but don't be fooled. It's January, and we got a long, long way to go. When I grew up in Oklahoma, Easter was a holiday that happened in the springtime. Easter in Vermont is not a holiday that happens in the springtime. I don't care what the calendar says. It ain't spring when you're digging Easter eggs out of the snow. But you get yourself a 30-degree day in January, enjoy it. That's all you can do. That's what the weather is today, so that's what you deal with. We're going to get in today's miles on the trail, and that's all we can ever do. I was talking about the scree slopes and walking on ice and snow. Kind of a metaphor for what it's like in life as you start as a Warzone kid. If you're a child sex abuse survivor like this guy living with borderline personality disorder, I'm a recovering addict and bulimic. Whether you're a childhood sex abuse survivor or just grew up in an environment with chronic physical abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, harm, neglect, whatever it was, you come out of your childhood with a Jenga tower that's not like the solid block it is at the beginning of the game, but it's like that leaning tower, that rickety bamboo scaffolding looking thing that you get toward the end. And for most of us, it all comes tumbling down at some point. Well, when it tumbles down, then you don't have to worry about keeping it from falling over because it's already happened. You can rebuild it by just picking up the closest block and putting it down on the stack. That's what we all have to do, because our task as Warzone kids is to live our life in the present, and to find a way to unplug from staying mired in the past and staying fretful about the future, because those two places don't exist. The right here and now is the only thing that does exist. And the scree, walking on scree, those sliding, like scree is what you get on a hillside that's covered in loose stones and pebbles. And it can be real unsettling to walk on because you feel like you're going to go tumbling all the way down the side. The ground keeps sliding under your feet. Like in Vermont here in the wintertime, you got snow and ice under you. You can go slipping and sliding. But when you know that you're walking on scree, and you know that those stones and pebbles are going to come slipping up from under your feet, and when you know that you're walking on snow and ice, it's a lot easier to stay upright with both feet on your ground and not your butt on the ground. But when you fall down on the ground is what helps you get back up again. The ground is your real life. Sometimes the ground is made of scree, slips out from under you. Sometimes the ground is made out of snow and ice, slippery and easy to fall. That's all right, that's what the ground is. And you need the ground, which made you fall down. You need that ground to get back up again. That's all right. Walking on the ground is the only place you can walk. So the experience of kind of waking up to yourself and what your real experience has been, that's, for most of us, that's the kind of thing that helps get us on the trail to the Western lands, to a place of peace and wholeness. Rebuilding our Jenga tower, turning our lemon into a hot rod. Learn and become what we are. Live in the cosmos, live in the right here and now. Looking at our families and our childhoods and the difference between the reality of what that was to us inside our heads, the reality of what that was, and then this fiction, this dreamland that was built around us and that we had to learn how to build in order to get along. Man, does that do a number on your psyche. That takes your Jenga block, that takes your Jenga tower apart all kinds of ways. Just this weird split. Because think about it. Your real life, the life that you're really living, that's your experience of harm, abuse, neglect, your real life where you know what's really going on is inside your head. And that's real because some part of you knows that that's your real experience. But your body is out in the cosmos dealing with other people. And those other people are busy weaving a web of dreamland around you. covering the world in a spider web of illusion and dreamland. But that's the world your body has to live in. And your psyche, your head, is torn between that and the reality of you knowing at some level what your real life has been. Think of that. And there's something about childhood sex abuse, because it is such an alienating, isolating experience. And it somehow seems to make that split for many of us at an early age. You've got this weird split in your psyche that you just got to develop a soul, a psyche, a Jenga tower, a butterfly that's got to live in both of these worlds at the same time. That's just the world that you develop in. Is part of you knows the reality of it, and that reality is the beautiful cosmos. I don't mean the things that happen to you are beautiful. I mean the cosmos itself, reality. That's what we live in. But that part is stuck on the inside. And in order to live, you have to learn how to cram reality down, and the reality of your experiences as a beautiful human creature in the cosmos, and learn how to live in this sticky web of illusion and dreamland that the adults around you are spinning out for themselves and for you. Man, does that do a number on us. Man. I would guess, my hypothesis, let's use some sciencey language. My hypothesis is that if you grab yourself the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, Volume 5, I think that's the current one, and you look up in Axis 2 in there, that's where personality disorders are. That's the part of that book that's near and dear to this guy's heart. And you read up on them. Borderline, narcissistic, antisocial, histrionic, all the rest of them. What you're going to be basically reading is a diagram of the different ways that human psyches that you're going to read like a taxonomy of Jenga towers. That's what Axis 2 of the DSM is. A taxonomy of Jenga towers. Did you grow up with a certain kind of harm, abuse, and neglect? You're going to get you a borderline-shaped tower. Other kinds, you're going to get you a narcissistic-shaped tower, a histrionic-shaped tower, an antisocial-shaped Jenga tower. These are all just different flavors of Jenga tower that we can have. That's my little hypothesis about that. I don't know how else our psyches come together except as a way that we get through our childhoods. That's a little tangent. Now back to the ski slopes and walking on snow and ice. You kind of notice this about your family environment that you grew up in. And I don't know about you, but if you're anything like me, you start to see this in the world around you, in the broader society, which, to my eyeballs, is an utter mess at the moment. And this is kind of independent of wherever you find yourself in whatever side of the sewer you find yourself on. It's all a sewer at the moment to my eyeballs. Well, when you're living in a sewer, you're living in a sewer. Put your muck boots on and hold your nose. That's what it is. The way that many of us human creatures live our lives in broad society really, I think, reflects that split that we childhood sex abuse survivors are so familiar with. Like when you're sitting there with your family, your actual family, whatever that is, or you're remembering your family from your childhood, and you see an ad on TV for Tide laundry detergent. And they got a beautiful family. And they got sparkling white sheets. And everybody's laughing it up. The kids leave Legos on the floor, and the mom or the dad comes along and steps on those Legos. Oh, Johnny, you left your Legos on the floor. Ha ha. Let's go take out them sparkling white sheets off the clothesline. Yuckity yuck yuck. Right? It's like that. And you look at that, and as a child, as an adult, you can't help but think at some level that that's how it's supposed to be. And that that's how everyone else is living, but you're stuck in this spider web of hogwash. Neck deep in sewage without any muck boots. Well, that just goes right along with your psyche that's had to split its whole life between living in the reality inside your head that you're having to cram down while you navigate the real world, which is covered in spider web of illusion and dream world and hogwash that the adults around you are spinning out. Man, does that do a number on you. How's it not supposed to do a number on you? So however you are, if you're a Warzone kid, however you are as an adult, I'm just here to tell you it's okay. Deal with that. There's not some other way you're supposed to be. You are exactly the way that you had to be to get to be an adult watching this little video right now. So I have some gratitude for that. But you still got to deal with your life right now, and you got to live your life right now in the present moment. That's what you have to do. You got to get unstuck from those spider webs and live in the reality of the cosmos and stare straight at the sun like I talked about yesterday. But I was thinking about that, in the broader society, and like those Tide laundry detergent commercials that show you them sparkling white sheets and all that. And, as a society, we kind of become aware of things and we start to address them, but it's still kind of in a dreamland. I think about that with, regard to sexual assault. Well, I grew up in the 80s. People did not talk about sexual assault. It was like you couldn't even say the word rape. I mean, you couldn't say the word vagina. Just the word was locked up in Fort Knox when I was a kid. The word couldn't be said without some element of shame. Let alone the endemic nature of rape and date rape and sexual violence of all kinds at the time just was not talked about. Well, when you think about something like a quarter or a third of women have been subject to some type of sexual violence in their life, and that number was probably higher then, and it was just like the Tide commercials. No one talked about the reality of what your sheets really look like. Just the sparkling white make-believe sheets in TV commercials. Not the real sheets that you wash once every 2 months and they get grubby. And no matter how many Tide Pods you put in there, you can't get them sparkling white like that. Right? I hope you're going with me on this metaphor. The reality of people's lives, just in terms of sexual violence among adults. And the number of men that were subject to sexual violence. And the level of shame and Fort Knox that was locked up in. And we haven't even touched the subject of childhood sexual violence. When I was a kid, and pornography existed in such wholesome things as magazines, which mostly just had pictures of naked people in them, one step past National Geographic. You'd have Hustler magazine, which had comics in it. And those little comic strips had a recurring character called Chester the Molester, which was what he sounded like he was. And this was just a comic book thing. Ha ha, the old man in the raincoat attacking some more kids. Isn't that funny? Right? Well, something like, I don't know, 1 in 4 girls, 1 in 5 girls, 1 in 6 boys. And I mean children, girls and boys in that way, not in a metaphorical sense, subject to sexual assault, sexual harm caused by adults. And that's just a subject of fun. I wonder if this month's going to have Chester the Molester in it. Hardy har har. Amazing. Think of the numbers of adult Warzone kids that come out of an environment like that. Well, all these things are in many ways better now. I mean, the fact that people talk about sexual violence now among adults, and people talk about date rape, and they talk about Harvey Weinstein, and sort of like sexual harassment taken to a strategic, like used as a strategy of life. Pick on Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby and other people who've broken my heart like that. we're aware of that now, and it makes it sort of seem worse in a way. But I think a lot of us Warzone kids will tell you, well, at least people are talking about it, and that makes life somewhat easier for many of the hundreds of thousands, millions of people for whom that's part of their real life while they're watching the Tide commercials about sparkling white laundry sheets. Right? And I was thinking about that with regard to the way that child sex abuse is talked about more in our society now in a weird way. You hear, I can't believe how much talk I hear about pedophiles and pedophilia, like with regard to Epstein files and all that. And these weird, to me, weird type of conspiracy element with eyes wide shut kind of rings of True Detective rings of sex abuse, stuff like that. And you get a lot of talk about revenge against child molesters and pedophiles, stuff like that. It's all over the place. If that makes it easier for people who are Warzone kids like I am, if that makes it easier for people to address the reality of their situation, good. I'm all for it. The part about getting revenge and all that, well, what's that revenge do? Nothing. I mean, when you go on a revenge quest, start by digging 2 graves. But whatever, let's set all that to the side. The part that's got my interest, and the reason I bring that up now, in 16 minutes into this video, which I thought was going to be the whole point, was, okay, that's great. Stranger danger. White van, pedophiles, kidnapping, all that. Excellent that our attention is being drawn now as a society to the, I'm not going to say widespread, but to the reality of the extent of that kind of thing. But here's the bit that people don't address, because the one thing that human beings don't do unless they have to is really engage in self-reflection and self-knowledge in a real way, staring at the sun. It's all great and good to be aware that Chester the molester ain't really a figure of fun. He's a figure of causing enormous psychological harm to kids who are then become adults. And that's all fine. I mean, I'm glad that we pay attention to that. The overwhelming majority, I don't know the numbers on this, and neither does anyone else, but I'm going to pick a number and say 90% of the sexual harm caused to children is not caused by strangers in white vans or Chester the molester, an old man in a trench coat. The overwhelming majority of sexual harm to children is caused by members of their immediate family, or extended family. Overwhelming number, the overwhelming amount of sexual harm caused by children and fellow Warzone kids is caused by caused by members of their immediate or their extended family. And if you say just people they knew, then it probably goes up 95%. But let's just stick with immediate and extended family. 90%, I'm going to say. Think of that. Those kids are not, those of us, we, are not going to go tell somebody about it because we don't know there's anything to tell. You don't know there's anything to tell. You just, congratulations, have now had your psyche rent in twain between the part that knows what's up and has to deal with the harm and the damage, and the part that has to create its own future damage by living in a dream world and figuring out how to get your physical body to navigate the world that you live in, with a body that you have to put socks and shoes on and get dressed in the morning, and later on the body that you abuse with burning it and cutting it and stuffing it with food and starving it of food and cramming substances into it and engaging in all kind of addictive self-destructive behavior because of that gap, because of that cosmic astronomical gap between the part of you that lives in the real world but is stuck inside of your psyche, and a part of you that lives in the real world, the real concrete physical world outside, but has to put on a mask and live in a dream world because that world is full of spider webs woven around you by the adults that caused you that harm, and then make you pretend you're living in a Tide commercial where the Legos are always soft and fuzzy and the sheets are always white and everyone's always laughing and dinner time's always happy. Think of that. And if you're a war zone kid, tormenting yourself with second arrows of judgment for how you are and trying to, and living with an illusion that what you really need to be doing is trying to make yourself live like you're in that Tide commercial with sparkling white sheets. If you think that you're supposed to be living in that world, give yourself a break. Whatever world you're living in, whatever you're really like, that's what you're really like. And that's what the world is. And the way to peace and happiness for all of us is in living in the cosmos and staring at the sun of your real experience. That's what I think about that. And that's what I think about Tide laundry detergent, which I love. I think Tide should sponsor me. I think Jenga Tower should sponsor me. I'm using their products for helpful metaphors toward healing and wholeness. Anyway, if you're a war zone kid like me, I send you peace for however you are. I love you and I feel compassion for you, and however you are is okay. Start with where you are. That's all you can do. If you're on your butt on the scree slopes, just try not to slide down. That's okay. Don't panic. If you're in the snow and ice, that's all right. Get up one step at a time and you'll do it. It's a beautiful day in the cosmos, Pilgrim. Rosy-fingered dawn is hiding somewhere behind this thick blanket of clouds and this blanket of snow that's on the ground. But the roads are clear. Today's path in front of me is clear today. I can put my left foot in front of my right foot, and I can get in today's miles on the trail, Pilgrim, and so can you. And we can do them together. If you're a war zone kid, I'm with you. I'm talking to you right now. And you're with me, keeping me company, and I appreciate it. I'm grateful to you. Have a beautiful day, Pilgrim. We got a long way to go, and we got a lot to talk about. Let's get in some miles together, Pilgrim. Daylight's burning. Let's get a move on.